Anna Aurilio is the director of the Washington Office of Environment America. I asked her for her thoughts on where we stand in this fight against climate change.
On the one hand, the scientific news never gets any grimmer, right? Every single morning we wake up, we hear about the California wildfires, record-breaking fires, hundreds of square miles burned, people evacuated. My own brother actually has come down with his fire unit from Washington State to fight the fires in California. And on the other hand, we hear that the rest of the world is moving ahead on tackling climate change. So that's incredibly good news. Today, the World Bank announced that it was no longer going to finance upstream oil and gas projects. That's great. If we're going to tackle the climate crisis, we have to shift completely away from polluting fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, keep those in the ground, and get to 100% renewable energy. So that's the good news in the face of all the bad news in terms of actual climate-affected extreme weather, wildfires, and the science that just gets worse and worse.
Well, I'm in the news business, so let's stick with the bad news, which I'm sure you don't want to do. Maybe not so much bad news. Messaging. It's interesting. You look at the people who are there, Bill Gates, Michael Bloomberg, even Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's riding around on a bike, basically taunting President Trump. This weekend, there was a profile on one of the networks here in the United States where Governor Jerry Brown said that this is the new normal. You mentioned those fires, that we're going to see fires like this. This is climate change. You have so many people in the U.S. saying this. Will any of it have an impact on the Trump administration?
Well, unfortunately, I think it will have little to no impact on the Trump administration, but there's a lot that we can do. So there's a lot that Governor Jerry Brown is already doing. There's a lot that 2,500 mayors and other local electeds can already do to tackle this problem. In the Northeast, there's 9 states that have gotten together, have cut power plant pollution in half, invested $2.5 billion in renewable energy just over the past 10 years, and they're set to announce a renewed program that's going to cut the pollution in that region even more. So states and local governments, they're on the front lines of dealing with the impacts of climate change, and they can do a lot policy-wise in terms of promoting renewable energy and putting the squeeze on the dirty sources. Unfortunately, at the same time, the Trump administration is rolling back too many federal policies that clean up our cars, clean up our power sector, and we haven't found the way to break through to them yet.
Emmanuel Macron, the French president, said that he thinks Donald Trump will come back to the agreement. I know that you probably think that's wishful thinking, but one of the things he also said, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that, but one of the other things he said is, despite the fact that everybody's on board, we're not seeing a change, that it's even more alarming. And I want to get your thoughts on both of those.
Well, first and foremost, we're really thrilled to see that scientists continue to put out the data and put out the actual facts. And even within the U.S. government scientists aren't stopping. And they're not stopping sounding the alarm. In fact, today, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration put out a new report on Arctic ice. Again, more bad news, but the good news is the scientists are charging ahead. In other good news, the French president said, you know, if you don't feel comfortable being in the United States, we'll hire you. So he hired 13 of our best scientists to continue doing the good work to figure out how to more accurately measure the impacts of climate change.